Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the down only Trump administration decisions, which lead to some despicable price action. We will be talking about that and more. As usual, loaded up for discussion today. We've got Bitcoin tumbling towards 81K. We're going to be talking a little bit about the aggressive tariff rhetoric and everything else that's kind of wrapped up in some of the negative price action at the moment, not only in crypto, but across the board. We're talking about the ETH-BTC ratio hitting the same low from 5 years ago. We've got some horrible stats to go through there, but we will summon up the strength to do that. And we're going to be talking about GUNs, the token by Off the Grid game on AVAX, which is going to launch today. A lot of excitement there. So hopefully that'll be a pocket of energy and excitement, which should, fingers crossed, be good. But we'll discuss it in a bit. We also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, plus a general set of thoughts on the market rotations in just a little bit. We've got Legendary and Bread Guy in the co-host seats with me. We're ready to get into it. Just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we do, say, think, or anything else is financial advice on this show. This market is very risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment at all times. With that out of the way, it's Monday. It's the 31st of March. Brad, how you doing?
Damn, the suspense and who you're going to call out. I sitting there typing up like,
Thought you might not have been concentrating.
Yeah, I know. See, I rope-a-doped you. I tricked you into thinking I wasn't
Really?
paying attention, and therefore I was ready, thinking I wasn't ready.
Okay.
Yeah, things
Now
are
I
good.
know.
Things are great.
I'll bear that in mind next time.
Yeah. Weather's starting to turn up a little bit. Did a little shopping and shit, like not just outside stuff. I spent most of yesterday vibe coding. I was telling you guys before the show. I was partially telling everyone in the crowd should know that we've reached the point where we stop telling each other what we actually do before the show, because you probably want to hear it for the first time on the show, and then here it is.
And also, it's like, look, it's only you two here. Like, the value of this story is so huge.
Who are these
Hundreds
guys?
of people should hear it.
Yeah, I have Big Arms X5999 in the crowd. He deserves to hear it more than B Check. But yeah,
like I can't get a story out these guys unless we're live anymore. I can't
tell. It is life of a celebrity. But no, all right. So I didn't tell you guys the full story. And what it was is that I spent yesterday vibe coding. Everyone knows I make a bunch of pretty pictures on the timeline. Most of that stuff is hand drawn in Excalidraw. Excalidraw doesn't have like a straight up import thing. So I have to actually hand draw these fucking things, right? Like if you see a piece of bread, it's because I made a piece of bread with a bunch of sticks, right? So I started vibe coding and I was like, all right, I want to be able to import this shit. I want an image, I just want to drop an image and it turns into an Excalidraw thing. So I built the thing out, all cool. I was so impressed with myself. I videotaped myself going through the process, look what I did, guys. This is cool. And in the process of doing that, I found a tool that was already built that already did this and was better than mine.
Okay. Yep. So that is, I mean, it sounds like you now don't have to do the work, so that should be good, but it sounds like
I was done with the work. That's
Okay.
that's the kicker. I was on the other end of it and I was like, all right, this is cool. I recorded my video. I went back to check some stuff. I found a link. And then I was like, fuck, this works well. And probably a little bit better than mine.
You wish
Bookmark
the
that
other
and I was
thing
done.
didn't exist and yours was better.
Yes, that is accurate.
So even though there's something exists which is more helpful to you, you wish it didn't exist.
Yes. To the detriment of everyone around me, because theirs was publicly accessible, right? Mine was only on my thing. So now I'm gonna pass it along to friends. So that's the helpful thing that I'm coming away with.
Interesting. Yeah. Good stuff. So okay, that's nice. Been spending a little time coding.
Yeah, I will say I'm in transition right now.
Everyone's in transition at the moment, Brad.
Going from Claude to ChatGPT. I have premiums on both.
Okay, that's an acceptable type of transition.
I
was wondering where you were going there.
Squizzy. I'll put it. But yeah, I'm transitioning from Claude to ChatGPT because everyone was doing their stuff with Studio Ghibli, and I was like, man, Claude doesn't do this shit, and the free version of ChatGPT didn't do it. And I gotta say, Claude's still way better at making. If you guys are doing some technical stuff, Claude's way better. It just is. It actually takes in like things you wouldn't anticipate for like UI UX stuff, right? If I give it the same prompt to two things, like hey, spin up this little website so I can click this link on my local host to be able to do this, Claude goes through the process of making it like all nice and like does these extra little like niceties, quality of life improvements that like ChatGPT just gives me a fucking Windows 95 box. Click the
Do you,
button and
do
it
you think it's
uploads the
all
thing.
brand? Do you think it's because it's ChatGPT is like just penetrated people's brains a bit more, and
Yeah.
Claude is Claude? Like, do we like
I
Claude?
started
I
switching
know you
because
like
someone started.
Claude because you're assessing it on the merit, but
No, because I started switching because someone else that I respect who's also very technical was like, he's like, man, Claude hallucinates a lot, which I think is actually true. So like, it's very good on these like the technical tasks, but like if I said, Claude, is the Earth flat? He'll be like, no, bro, that's dumb. You're dumb. And I'm like, I think you're wrong, Claude. He's like, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. So like, I want a little resistance. I want my AI overlords to have a personality and a little oomph in their speech. And Claude didn't have that.
Got it. I see. Okay. Legendary, how's your AI overlords treating you? You've been interacting quite a lot at the moment. Any updates on your AI relationship? Are you transitioning at all at the moment?
Okay. Here's a story. We talked about creative writing, and I think it was on one of the shows with Adam from Proof of Play when he said, "Nah, creative writing is not quite there yet."
Yeah.
And GPT 4.5, when it comes to creative writing, is insane because both of you have mentioned like the term AI overlord. And when I had the post on the weekend on my timeline where I was like asking, like, what car would an ETH holder drive? And it came up with this description: ETH holders down bad, yada yada yada. And I like jokingly responded to ChatGPT saying, thank you, AI overlady. Like I went for the female gendered version. And GPT 4.5 went into the most insane role playing mode, started to call me a degenerate little wallet warrior, and like went on like that. And it was so suggestive in all of its answers without crossing the line. Like it talked about, draining your wallet. It started to call itself AI mommy, which was insane to see, like how finally it managed to walk that line without like being explicitly sexual and basically having to have the moderating algorithm coming in and basically censoring off the conversations. That was insane to see how it got into this mode. And also what I realized with GPT 4.5 is that it now has a different tone depending on the stuff that you talk, that you're talking about. So this was the degenerate wallet conversation basically. Then I told Jim like looking into getting a car. So I asked it about a couple cars and stuff that I wanted to know. And then it goes like, oh, bro, yeah, that's a dope ride, yada, yada, yada. And then when I talk about like my supplements, it talks very, educational, very like nerdy. It's really matching your style from conversation to conversation, which is utterly insane because like I'm sitting there again and like I'm laughing when I'm reading those things. So I have like an emotional reaction to that, which is very impressive to see. As concerns the coding, Brett, have you ever tried bolt.new?
I haven't.
You should take your prompt to bolt.new. It's super good basically at
BOLT.
bolt.n.new. Yeah. So it's basically super good at scaffolding, building an app. It can also like, it's connected to Supperbase. It can host your app.
Have you used Lovable?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Try bolt.new. You will probably be pretty impressed by it. It's pretty cool. You can also, by the way, upload a Figma now to Bolt and be like, yo, take this Figma and turn it into the app that I want to.
There's a wireframe and nice.
Yeah, it's really good.
The
Bolt
superpower is when you move all of these together. Like once you identify these AIs that are tuned to these very specific tasks, and then you're like, all right, I need vectorize to vectorize my thing. I need Bolt new to actually take this vector and put it into a front end UI that actually can like let me just upload it instead of actually having to call a thing on the back end. Gets pricey with the API calls though.
Yeah, I kind of realized that I'm already spending like 1.5K a month for AI subscription, so I definitely need to do a bit of a.
How much of that is Kaido?
Kaido I actually have canceled. So Kaido is not a part of that equation anymore. Kaido I have canceled.
You shouldn't have said that on this Spaces because it hears you and it's going to nerf you in all the
Legendary's
leaderboards.
Kaito's second season airdrop is slashed. In case you're listening, Kaito,
Into that.
Yep.
I haven't
Yep.
got the subscription, but I'm open to it because I
Yep.
would like
I
my
love
season 2
Kaido.
airdrop.
I'm having a back and forth with you right now, and I had a post last night that everyone's kind of poking at because of someone gaming it. And I'm helping you, Kaido. Help me help you.
We are all very pro Kaito, in
Kaido
spite of what
aligned.
Legendary says.
Mhm.
Good stuff. Right, look, we need to get into the headlines. Can't just talk AI all day, although maybe it will make another appearance again. Let's get into the price action as usual to get you up to speed with everything that is going on in the market, starting with the majors. Unfortunately, we don't have a huge amount of good news when it comes to the price action. We've got Bitcoin down 1% to 82, but that's down 6% on the week. ETH is down almost 2% to 1. It had a 1.7 when I looked at it earlier. It's a 1.8 now, which I don't know, still not that great. XRP down 5% to $2 and almost 10 cents. BNB is at $594. Solana is down 1% to 124. So not so big moves down the last 24 hours, but bigger moves down over the last week. On the meme coin side of things, let's see. We've got Doge down 4% to 16 cents. That is all the gains. A lot of the gains given up now from the the mania phase. We've got Pepe down a couple of percent, Trump's down 1%, Bonk is down 4%, WIF is down 4%, Fartcoin is down 8%, down 30% on the week. SPX down 8%, Pengu down 7%. A lot of red across the board, I would say. AI16Z is flat, but look, all of this stuff is pretty red today, all things considered. Mog's down 5% as well. Getting into the main headlines themselves, we've got Bitcoin tumbling towards 81K. Legendary's going to break down a little bit the tariff stuff that's going on and any other factors. Feels like there's a swirling set of factors now, which is kind of acting as a dark cloud over not just the crypto market, but all the markets in general. Looking forward to Legendary explaining his thoughts there. I'll have some too. The ETH Bitcoin ratio in other news is hitting the same low from 5 years ago. If you're looking on screen, this chart is not nice. To be fair, it's the same chart that a lot of charts are looking. It looks like the Tesla chart recently, which was just completely up towards the Trump inauguration, and then just given up all the gains. And that's kind of what ETH has done over the last 4 to 5 year period. Although obviously Tesla is on a shorter time frame. And then finally, the highly anticipated GUNs token by Off the Grid game on AVAX is launching today. That's something that people are excited about. It's on the Binance launch pool as well. So watching that closely to see how that goes, not only for seeing how Web3 gaming is going, but also from the perspective of just seeing how new token launches are going in this market. I know a lot of tokens are still to launch. We'll discuss that in a second in more detail. On the NFT side, Legendary, is there anything that we need to know about? I know ETH is sliding in price. So how are the NFTs holding up?
Yeah, very good question. Bored Apes are doing pretty well. They're holding well above the 14 ETH floor, sitting at 14.4 ETH, still up 7% over the week, up 2% over the last 24 hours. The rest of the majors don't look that good. Pudgies have fallen under 10 ETH. Other collections are down as well. One other exception are the punks. In ETH levels, in ETH terms, they are holding up extremely well. Again, 42.6 ETH. However, in USD terms, because ETH is down, obviously that's quote unquote only a 77K USD floor. And also quickly wanted to check in with the Taproot Wizards side of things. Volume wise, insane volume on that collection, more than 100 BTC, 101.1 to be specific. Floor price, however, has been trending down and is currently sitting at 0.168 BTC, so sliding down under the mint price, at least for the people who are either minting at 0.2 BTC or for the few who have minted in the public Dutch auction.
Excellent. I've got some thoughts on that in a little bit as well, because I put a tweet out there. And a lot of reaction. People love talking about NFT mints, especially when you get a chance to dunk on a founder. That I think is people's favorite pastime of all. Getting you up to speed with everything else first, though. Bitcoin miner Mara eyes $2 billion stock offering to buy more Bitcoin. We had Trump pardoning Arthur Hayes and other BitMEX founders. That was one of the old crypto exchanges. Japan to classify crypto as a
You see
proper
their
financial.
dance video?
Yeah,
Arthur Hayes. That was funny.
that was funny. It was funny that the news came out that he was getting pardoned, and then the dance video came out at the same time.
Yeah, for people who didn't see it, it was just like a zoom in photo of like it looked like a party in like the Caribbean. Like this dude, Arthur Hayes, was up on stage dancing. He's got glasses. Like it looked like almost like a daytime rave kind of situation. And it was just
Freedom dance.
seeing the like Arthur Hayes pardon of all wrongdoing, and then like him just partying same day was a funny combination.
Yeah, it was nice. It's a good clip. In other news, Japan to classify crypto as proper financial product with insider trading rules. That might not be very good for all the insider traders out there. Elon Musk says government has no plans to integrate Dogecoin. I don't know which people thought that Dogecoin was going to get integrated into the government, but he thought he needed to clarify that, and Doge was down 4% on that news. Terraform Labs, who are behind Terra Luna, announced online portal for investors to submit compensation claims for losses. That's pretty interesting. A lot of people lost a lot of money there. I don't know what they intend to recover, but in case you did, worth checking out. Wayfinder TGE by Parallel team announced it would be delayed by a week or two. People not liking this market for launches. And then finally, Taproot Wizards down a further 20% to 0.16 Bitcoin floor. As Legendary mentioned, they minted at 0.2. The public auction was much higher at around 0.31. I think it settled. So minters, a little bit down now on their public, on their whitelisted mint price. That is the roundup. Got a few thoughts. We're going to go in a few directions here, but I want to throw it to you guys first. What's catching your attention here? What's interesting you? Let's go to Legendary first.
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts on the Bitcoin side of things, but I'm going to keep that for the main headline. So instead, I'm going to get into the Wayfinder TGE delay, because I think
let's talk
that will be symptomatic for a few other TGEs that will be delayed as well. Some of which
tell me what you're thinking there, then, because I'm thinking similar things. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking that it's, to a certain degree, look, I always say it is annoying to see those TGs getting delayed, and to a certain degree, I can empathize with that. But ultimately, I think if you delay a TGE in this market conditions, it is a sign of weakness to a certain extent to do that. Like Guns is coming out today. The market is shit. Monday has been a horrible day, and they are doing that, and that is a sign of strength. And obviously, they have insane action in the Binance launch pool. I'm going to get into that once we get to that headline. So I'm not going to foreshadow too much from that, but it's a massive. Maybe let's look at it in a positive framing. It's a massive sign of strength if you don't delay a TGE in those market conditions. If you have to delay, it just doesn't look good. I understand pressure from investors. I understand pressure from market makers. But ultimately, what it tells you is that you're trying to kind of game a moment to have a good entry in the market. And that either, to me, paints a picture of having less self-conviction in your own stuff, or having a bit more of a short-term orientation. I know that's not always true. I'm generalizing and talking in broader terms, but that is the signaling that I see when I see this stuff getting delayed. Just wait for better market entries, especially if it's projects who have been delaying. Oh, now too many TGEs. Now the market is too hot. Now we have an AI meta. Now the market is too weak. That's just not a good sign, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's difficult to there's a psychology component to it too, right? If you have a date that you can build up towards, gain momentum, specifically pointed at, to regain that momentum is or can be tough, and the message just gets really noisy. We did that with testnet with Mega ETH, right? We had initial date that we said, put out our date, people were excited about it, and then we had to shift date because there were some technical complications and whatever. So we shifted the date, which is fine in the grand scheme of things. But then you notice, or I would notice, resonating comments from people a week later, 2 weeks later, that were just oh, I had this date in mind, then it wasn't the actual date, and now it is the date, and it's I kind of just lost vision of the path, and then I no longer paid attention. So I think there's just a psychological component to it on top of the what Legendary is pointing out, where it's just bullish that they're pushing through this stuff. If you can command attention in a down market like it is now, like there's not a lot of things flying around, you'll get all of the less attention focused on you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I can see Funky and Oxy with their hand raised as well. I'm going to come to you in a moment. I've just got this to say on it. I think this is the real challenge here. I think people are really playing with fire to the extent that, look, your TGE I know is super important and you want it to go well. But the reason why it's so precarious in this specific market is, you know, if you're playing probabilities and you're trying to assign proportion, trying to assign a percentage for how likely you think markets are going to be better and when they're going to be better, like what is it for 30 days time? Like you're 1 month closer to the summer. Like the market is absolutely driven by macro at the moment. In what way are we in any way control, or any crypto founder in control of those things? Like I think of, as a founder, one of the things I'm thinking about all the time is only focus on the things that I have control of, and the things that I don't have control of, I really like, what am I supposed to do? And I feel like it's challenging at the moment because everyone is so helpless to what Trump and the administration are doing. And that is what the whole world is trying to react to. To be fair, it's not just crypto founders, right? Like every major business, you know, you've got car manufacturers getting hit with these humongous things, being like, right, do we need to move our whole factory to America in order to avoid these tariffs? Like they're trying to make long-term plans based on these noises that are coming out of the States. And so everyone is trying to react to it. But if your roadmap was to, or you owe investors and you owe the community an airdrop or a drop like pretty soon, I can't see how your percentage of it being better in 30 days would be markedly better based on the way things are going at the moment. So I feel like a delay now is leaning into what Legendary said. It's like, it's not great, because if it's still not great in 30 days, which is not very long, 30 days is not that far away. If it's still not great, then why would you then drop it then? You're going to delay again? Because the same thing will, you know, we're kind of in no different place than we were 30 days ago. We were hovering in this range for Bitcoin, 82, 90, 82, 90, like 30 days ago, probably as well. So does that mean in another 30 days, it's going to be the same? Are we magically going to be much higher? Like I'm just not assigning a humongous proportion that everything, like there's such a hugely rosy outlook in that period of time. So I think it's a challenging scenario for people. And, you know, I think if you got to drop it, you're going to, maybe I think that's why the guns thing is going to be interesting to see, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because, you know, it's a hyped game. People are quite positive about it. Very curious to see how it does in this particular market. Any reflections on that, boys, before go to Funky first, then Oxy? Funky, welcome to the stage, my man. What are your thoughts? Getting pretty, having some strong views there. What's your take on the launches, the delays, and all these things coming to market?
GM fam, no, just a couple things. This I know only because of having to work with the Bob team closely. A lot of times these delays are actually on the exchange end. So some teams are fully prepared to do the TGE, but then the exchange is the one staving them off for whatever reason. And they
Yeah,
also,
but why do you think they're delaying it as well, Funk?
it could be, yes, it could go right along with what you're saying, that maybe the exchange themselves are looking for better market conditions. But I'm just pointing out that for some teams, these things are beyond their control. And they also play this kind of game where they try and leverage to get the best tiered exchange listings. Like, oh, hey, by the way, X exchange is going to do it, you know, RTGE. Why wouldn't you want to do it as well to get Y exchange on board? Because as you can imagine, they want to get the best exchanges, and the exchanges themselves charge tons of money for these listings. So they often play, you know, kind of leverage one another's names off each other to try and move up and get the exchange listing for as little cost as possible, or possibly free. So, but yes, the points that you guys made all still stand. It's just I wanted to at least share that in the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think that's part of it. Whether you launch yesterday, next week, in 2 months' time, like you're always trying to get the very best exchange, the exchange action. But you know, increasingly, I'm seeing people opt out of it as well. I think there are certain teams that are opting out of it because the amount that people are asking for has got too much. So appreciate the contribution, Funk. Something to keep in mind, I guess. Oxy, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts here on these delays, the general market conditions, and anything else?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess specifically for Wayfinder, I actually think they're delaying because of the increased momentum that they've had over the last 10, 20 days. So to put it in perspective, 10 days ago, they had 16,000 wallets that have cash prime, which if you don't know, caching prime then leads to like higher allocation for prompt. So over the last 10 days, they've gone from 16,000 wallets to 26,000 wallets. And then even since the announcement, they've added another 1,000 or 1,500 wallets to the cash prime amount. So like, I mean, I think I'm sure there might be other underlying issues like sexes or whatever it might be, but I do think that they see that they have this huge wave of attention. They have these like a lot of new wallets coming in, cashing their prime, trying to get in on this allocation. And they're like, you know what? I could see this kind of continuing to go forward, which I guess in reality it has. More people are cashing prompt, more wallets are anyway. So I don't know. I kind of see them, and it seems like, I guess, speaking to Brett's comment about losing momentum, I can definitely see where that happens a lot of the time. But I mean, based on the wallets that have happened over the weekend, it seems like they're only gaining momentum more so. So I don't know. It's an interesting. I mean, it might be strategic where they're like, we have this wave, let's kind of ride it out a little bit longer, and then once we start seeing it fade out, then we TGE. But I don't know. It's really interesting.
Interesting take. You're not catching me with that one though, Oxy. Got too much momentum, too much positive news. Let's just delay it. You're not catching me with that one. In the same way, when I had my prime, it's like you're not catching me with staking when you're going to try and drop another token later. It's like I think when the staking thing was announced, prime was, I can't remember where it was, but it's obviously dipped significantly because there's this value transfer that happens. Like if you're going to have two tokens, the value that exists in one ends up getting averaged out between the two. And someone, I think it was Blocks in my comments on the Taproot Wizards tweet earlier today. It's kind of going all over the place to illustrate a particular point, but he shared this image where I think Quantum Cats were trading. Let me find it. Where are we? I cannot find it now. That's frustrating. So I think my point is that when you have one token and then suddenly there's news of a second one, the value which the first one goes up to and then the second one coming out ends up getting averaged out between the two. So Quantum Cats were trading at like 0.2 something Bitcoin for a long period of time. Remember, like every other ordinal had dropped down in price, and then Quantum Cats stayed at that price. Now Quantum Cats are down to 0.05, and what is Wizards trading at? Like 0.16 or 0.17. So like the value that exists in the ecosystem has got averaged out between the two. And I think something similar happened with, or something similar is in the process of happening with Prime and Prompt. I think people are super bullish Prompt, and for lots and lots of good reasons. I think they are a good team. They're doing cool stuff. Everyone who's using that Wayfinder product is finding it to be, I think, quite strong. So I think that is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely a trend that we're noticing because, Wayfinder are not the only people who are wanting to delay right now. So it's certainly not something personal against them. I think it's just a challenging market, and I think people are having to react accordingly. Appreciate the take. Any final ones there, boys, before we get into the headlines? Take us into it then, Ledge.
Absolutely happy to get into it, or not as happy because the news is not so positive. Because Trump is ready to start a global trade war in 2 days. April 2nd is coming, which Trump is dubbing the Liberation Day. And basically, sum it up, tariffs will, that's a quote, start with all countries. There's a bit more detail in that NBC News article that I'm currently sharing on screen. But basically, President Donald Trump said on Sunday that reciprocal tariffs he is set to announce this week will include all nations, not just a smaller group of 10 to 15 countries with the biggest trade imbalances, which seem to have been the initial or like the corrected thinking. And we reported on that last week. We said the market got more used to tariffs, got used that it's not an all-out tariff or trade war that is coming, but definitely Trump's rhetoric on that has gotten more aggressive over the weekend, which is something that, or even leading into the end of last week, which is something that the stock markets did not like at all. S&P 500 is down. We reported that Asian stock markets were down as well as a result of that. Obviously has had a massive impact on crypto prices as well. You reported at the start of the show, everything has been sliding lower. BTC went as low as 81.5K. ETH even went under 1.8K. However, on the other side of things, gold is still going up. So that's that. Then on Friday, we also have said that we were waiting for core inflation data to come out of the US. We do have that PCE data now, and it's a bit higher than expected. So core inflation in February hits 2.8%. Spending increases 0.4%. We expected that to come out a bit lower, 2.7 for the inflation rate. Again, that is higher. That is a bit concerning. And 0.3 for the spending increases. So both numbers didn't come out as positively as we expected them to come out, which certainly also had an impact on the market. Now, if we take a final look at Polymarket to see what the impact of this is, and we can see it pretty strongly here that when March was March 11th, so at the start of March 2 weeks ago, markets were thinking there is a good chance, 52%, that we're going to see a decrease in rates, 25 pips in May, when it's time for the Fed to look at that decision again. And basically now we are 82% certain that we are not going to see a change, so that the first decrease, the first rate cut of 25 pips is now moving more towards June. But even in June, it's not a very certain outlook. It's a 58% chance, that is on the market with $2 million of volume, that there's going to be a rate cut. And finally, another Polymarket stat that I like to look into is the US recession fear, more so to get another fear indicator, because obviously we have the fear and greed index, which also is now sliding more towards the fear side. And I like this poll specifically, not because I think that is necessarily the best representation of will there be a recession or not, but just to get another fear indicator. And we kind of said it that we had reached levels above 40%, the 44% chance mid-March, but situation has started to look better, went as low as 32 cents, so a 32% chance of an inflation, of a recession to hit the US. But recently, over the last couple of days, this chance is up massively, up 19% to 38%. So we are nearing, quote unquote, all-time highs for recession fears on Polymarket as well. So to sum it up, we went from having a bit more certainty with tariffs to now fearing that Liberation Day, April 2nd, will bring the start of an all-out tariff war. And on top of that, inflation data looked a bit worse than we expected, which ultimately led to both some pressure on the stock markets as well as crypto prices plummeting.
And on top of that, we had a few other rumblings from Trump, which were around Russia and Putin, like explicitly coming out, being annoyed and saying that, no, I'm actually annoyed. Because, for a lot of times he's kind of either accused of being too friendly with him or presenting himself as being friendly with him, so as a good thing, because they're, suggesting that he might be able to figure things out. I think for the first time, he's been quite outwardly and publicly negative on that situation. So there's that escalation, I think, or at least a verbal escalation. You also had the thing, I don't know the validity of this, but
the
third term headline, where he's kind of suggesting that, I think in the States, you are literally only allowed to be president for 2 terms. And he started suggesting that maybe there's a way around, and if things can be done to get a third term, which is incredibly disruptive for people's perception of the state of the states. I think if you're literally going to throw out the complete rule book, and
the way he talked about that was, I feel like maybe that came across as concerning, because he basically said there's like 3 ways. Obviously, way 1 is you need to change the constitution, and you would also need the approval of 75% of the states to change the law and allow for more than 2 terms. Way 2 would be vice president in the next run and then step up for whatever reason and take over as a president. And then exactly what you have said. And there's also another way, which he did not comment on what that way would be. That sounded
Ominous.
Yeah, ominous. Let's phrase it like that. Also see Funky with his hand up on that way. I'm quite curious to hear from him as our political correspondent.
Bring it in, Funk.
So, real quick. So my wife, right after Trump got elected again, she said he is going to be the president for the rest of our lives. He's left it at that. So like he's going to become sort of like, you know, autocratic dictator or something like that. I have no idea, but it's interesting because until you guys mentioned it, I was literally like making her sandwich. I was like, what? Like in my head, I'm like, he literally said this stuff, like that he wants to run for a third term. So this is all news to me. So you guys are breaking the news for me, but I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, definitely go Google it. It sounds like Legendary had heard some of the more details. I just kind of seen the quick headline and clicked into it quickly. Definitely something to just keep an eye on. Like this kind of rhetoric. Look, you know, I think a lot of times out of 10, Trump used to say these things, and people be like, "Oh, he's just talking. Don't worry, don't mind him. He'll flip soon because he, you know, cares about markets and whatever." But you know, this rhetoric's definitely not slowing down, and it's kind of not accelerating, but the every additional new piece of rhetoric seems to be more extreme in some way. And so, okay, fine, you're doing the tariffs. That's like, I guess, part of your economic mandate. Maybe you could probably argue that that's the case, but like throwing away the constitution and just doing something that has never been done before, trying to find a creative way around a rule which is in place for a very particular reason is something far beyond what people were expecting now. And it's definitely not going to help the markets in terms of thinking that we're in a stable situation. So I think that's, you know, I just wanted to add that on top of your story there, Ledge. Brad, curious for your thoughts.
Yeah, it's all like this is him. This is what we've come to understand. No, like even like this happened last time too, didn't like he's always just like, yeah, I could probably get around it. I could probably do it. Like when it comes to different like terms.
But then
and
last time, did we believe it? Did anyone believe it, or do you think it's still a bluff? Or
the difference is
Yeah.
last time he explicitly said it is a joke. Like he added that part, and also then Republican party members were saying, "Yeah, he's just trolling. He's just joking." But this time, like if you quote from that interview, it was exactly what I described with the scenario that NBC News presented. Vance is winning the next election. Trump is his running mate, and then he would, for whatever reason, steps up to be president again. And then he said, Trump said, "quote unquote," that's one method, but there are others too. And then he was asked to share that other method, and he simply said no.
I think
left
the most dangerous part of it is my response, right? Like they flood the zone so hard with so much ridiculous stuff that like he can say things like that. I'm just like, man, it's kind of just what he does. Like it's just it's week 27 of the year, and this is the 27th time I've had to dealing with something that Trump has said that is like outside the bounds of normal, and it's just like whatever. The problem is I get like a little to sleep with a lot of it because like I don't want to be bothered, and eventually he's gonna move on something, and at that point I'm like, oh fuck, he was serious, and like that's when it gets dangerous.
Yeah, I think some of this stuff I mean, you never know how much to dwell on it as people who are reporting on the stuff, because look, we're just playing a guessing game. We've said this before. We're in the president's market in the sense that everything is being driven by the decisions that they take at the moment. Whatever tweets that they're putting out is like incredibly powerful, but also you just don't know the veracity. And there's as you said, the volume of stuff that's coming out is hard to place the appropriate weight on each piece of news when someone is known for being very hyperbolic and over the top all the time anyway. So look, we're just sharing the variety of ways that things seem to be challenging at the moment. Legendary, maybe a final thought to put a bow on this before we move into the next one. Again, we're playing a bit of a guessing game here, but where do you see this shake out like pre-summer? Like, is there any do you have any indication of anything here? Like, what's the read? I've seen a lot of people's takes, and a lot of people's just kind of up in arms at the moment.
On the third term stuff, really
No,
can't
not
get to
the
that.
third.
On the tariff stuff, however, I don't, at least I don't hope, and I also partially don't think that he wants to focus his second presidency entirely on being on this like all-out tariff war. So I do hope that this situation will improve leading into the summer, but it's very, very hard to predict what will happen because he's been going back and forth on that so much. And I feel like if he's now shifting to that rhetoric of going on a trade war against all nations, then it's easier for, well, every other country in the world to kind of get together and be a bit more unified in their response. Because if he's singling out targets, like if he's singling out Canada, what can Canada do? Realistically, nothing. Same with the EU, they can't do anything against that. But if he's now going against everyone, then that power momentum or that power pendulum might shift a bit.
The one thing I'd say is A, we don't know, but B, there's too many people now. The consensus thing seems to be like, look, it's okay, it's going to be difficult. Summer, this is a write-off for now. This is what I'm noticing. It's like everyone knew, or at least we spoke about on the show, like, look, inauguration is going to be this big moment, probably sell that. But if you remember, as we got towards inauguration, a lot of people started to say, give me a little bit more, give me a little bit more. Like, everyone wants to push out the thing one more quarter. Everyone always just wants one more quarter. And I think what's happening now is people can see that this is bad, but they want it to be better. So they're just like, okay, well, summer's a write-off. Just give me just one extra quarter. You know, Q3, Q4, things are going to pick up. Things are going to pick up. Like, that's how it's going to be. Things will improve in just a few months. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. Then I'm just putting a question mark there because I think too many people are, well, depending on this tariff stuff, if any of it goes through, there's like really long-term consequences of this stuff. If the point of some of the tariffs is to onshore companies, like, no, stop producing all of your stuff over in that country, bring all of that stuff into the States so that you don't have to pay the tariffs. That's like a multi-decade corporate plan that people need to figure out and plan for and try to implement. And the confusing thing for me that I don't know how to evaluate yet, but this is just going to explain my thinking. I don't know how people would be able to do that in confidence when this is probably such a contentious plan that if the Republicans were not to win again the next time, what would be to stop the next organization from reversing it? And in that case, what is the point of any companies implementing the plan now if they think that there's a reasonable percentage chance that it's going to get reversed later on? So you might just like eat shit for 3.5 years, assuming that it's going to go bad and they're going to have to revoke it at some point. But that's just part of my thinking here. Any final thoughts, Ledge, before we keep it moving?
Yeah, very much agree with that. I think it's exactly like what you have been doing right now, right? Thinking of how it could go, what could it mean for the next party stepping in? Are we looking for, having another quarter after the inauguration? Now we're looking to postpone the action into fall. Like, it seems that this uncertainty is like really the dominating narrative right now, and you're like still trying to find the positive things into that. Like, I remember that a couple of weeks ago, this was all a master plan to get J-Pow to bend the knee to get rates down. Now the stock markets, while like basically a very objective commentator of what is happening, just stop liking that and stop thinking that this is what is going on, because we've been going down for quite a while. And I do think that it's exactly this uncertainty that's dominating, and nobody really knows what to make of what statement and which of that to take seriously and which not. Like, ultimately, as we just said, you have a president flirting with a third term, and nobody's like really able to say, is he joking? Is he serious about that? And that basically goes for all the other things as well. And it's hard to operate in those conditions with stability as a financial market.
Okay, I think that's fine. I think that's a perfect final sentence on that point. Very, very difficult to operate with stability in the financial market when this kind of activity is taking place. Let's keep it moving. That's enough on the political side for today. Brad, talk to us about the ETH-BTC ratio, which is hitting a bit of a milestone point, but not specifically for a good reason.
Yeah, do we want to? Gross. I mean, I will, because my Lord and Savior B-Check put it on the thing. Look, guys, it brings me not much joy to say this, but the headline is ETH-BTC ratio hits same low from 5 years ago. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I wasn't until I logged on this morning, but we're here. So we got 3 little posts we can look at for talking about this. First one here, we have Mike Dudas. He's showing a chart of the ratio on the 5-year time horizon, and you can see significant progress was made and has since evaporated over that time span, going from 0.02 to up to 0.08. So, 4xing and then back down again. We're back down to it. That's cool. Then you have we'll go over to Ansem. Ansem had another post on it, and he was just saying last time ETH-BTC was this low, ETH was trading under $100. Just to give you a perspective of time and just like relative dollar figures, like $100. Like everyone over the last 4 or 5 years has said, like, man, if I could have ETH at the $77, if I could have ETH at the $100, we're in the vibes space of that same dollar figure. And you can see that by going to our third post, which is showing from Cointelegraph the quarter returns for Ethereum. And the last time that we were down in this vibe space was back in 2018 with a Q1 return of negative, was it negative 46 then? It's negative 42% today. Not awesome, as you can see. And then, I saw that and I was like, yeah, but like it probably went up after that. And then you look, you're like, it had a positive quarter, single double percentages, and then hammered again 2 following quarters. Like that's a lot of red in the future if we're just gonna do like a history doesn't repeat but it rhymes situation. So buckle up, buckaroos, because if you are looking to the past to guess what the future is, based purely on this, right? We're not talking about fundamentals. We're not talking about a new paradigm. A lot of stuff has changed since then, right? We have infinity other chains. We have like ETH-ETF is a thing, one of only 2 that are approved right now. We have a favorable macro conditions outside of Trump being insane, right? Like there's like there are things to look forward to, but questions still remain. And just purely looking back over the last quarter, it's been a rough market for you if you are an ETH holder.
Yes, that is true. That's one of the tweets I wrote over the weekend. Said the biggest mistake I've spoken about on the show before. The biggest mistake I made this cycle, despite being able to make like profitable trades outside of ETH, just if the core holding is not going up, then you're kind of missing out on a lot of the gains. That's like one of my core reflections. Everything outside of Bitcoin is tech, and we're investing in tech. And sometimes tech is good, and then sometimes other tech is going, either providing it very, very stiff competition or coming right up behind it in order to try to compete with it. And whatever tech you have has to continue to be able to compete. As Kusho says, if anything's going bad in your life right now, it does sound like what he said. ETH-BTC is down bad and probably the source of my life problems right now. Why not? I think a lot of ETH holders might be feeling similar. One final statistic on that, which is really horrible when you hear it out loud, Brad. This is going to send the shiver down your spine. 1 Bitcoin is 44.5 ETH.
That means nothing to me. Like that, I don't do trading. I don't do ratios and stuff. So like, I hear
know,
these
but
things.
But neither do I. I don't do the ratio that much either. But the number 44.5, like that is the highest it's ever. Well, highest been for 5 years. But
for me, it's always just been like ETH is higher, or BTC is higher. So it's always just been like a big number. That's just like, meh. I've never really tried to contextualize it. For me, I think like the thing that's worth, the thing that's worth like, I don't maybe observing here is that the ETH price action has not been awesome, and it's frustrating because there has been so much useful stuff that has been built atop and connect with like arm's reach away from Ethereum, right? Like Kaido just happened. People got 6-fig airdrops from that, which is, it's the token exists on Base, right? Which is apparently Ethereum. So like there's a lot of consternation because like you're you're really close to stuff that like has pockets of green shoots that is valuable. It's just not all translating to direct value accrual to Ethereum, which is frustrating because, you know, the thought was, you know, traditionally it's just like, oh, well, that's just an index on all of the apps being built on top of the thing. And if you view like L2s and the things on top of the L2s as like the thing that is built on top of Ethereum, then you're like, well, I should be getting some of that. But you're not. You're not getting all that. And that's frustrating.
Frustrating is one way to describe it. I agree. I can concur with that. But look, the plight of ETH is not something we can get into. We try to get into it routinely. We have been getting into it routinely, but we can't do it more today. We've only got a few minutes left in the show, and I do think it's worth getting into this GUNs token by Off the Grid. Big anticipated game. Well, the game's already out. People are playing it. People actually like it. It's actually a good game. People seem to be enjoying it. It's on AVAX. But the token itself, I think, is launching today. Legendary, what do we need to know here? What are we looking out for? What's exciting about it? What do we need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very exciting TGE today. We don't have the time to get into all of the tokenomics in details. I'm just going to keep it with the key facts. Long vesting, very minimal unlocks on day one, basically just the community incentives plus the Binance launch pool drops. No unlocks for a month, 5-month gap before the next release. Also, founders and team have a 12.8% allocation, Guns Foundation, 9% advisors, 5.3 or 5.29, so not the highest of figures. The interesting thing here is that we're not talking about a quote-unquote like simple in-game token. It's actually an L1 that is being built that is there to cover all gas fees in the Guns ecosystem, pay for skins, upgrades, subscriptions, battle pass, purchases on the Guns P2P marketplace. This thread goes on to make a comparison, basically how this is different from Fortnite, Warzone, PUBG, Apex Legends, etc., basically saying everything is tradable, everything is decentralized, player owned, and lives on the blockchain. Going into the launch pool on BNB, we can see that 4% of the total token supply is going to the launch pool, and initial circulating supply when listed on Binance is going to be 6.05% of the total supply. The impressive fact and figure there is that by March 2025, Guns hit 14.5 million wallets, 480 million plus transactions. Obviously, massive numbers for Web3. But what I find the most impressive number, which I always like to look at, is if there's a Binance launch pool, obviously, to see how much money is staked in anticipation of the TGE. And that number is absolutely crazy for Guns. It is $15.8 billion by 1.6 million participants. So very, very excited market for
Is that like a country's GDP staking for the Guns token?
Say that again.
Is that like some country in the world's GDP staking against the Guns token?
Probably, yeah. If you look at some very small, not successful state.
Maybe they'd be more successful if they were staking for the Guns token. Okay, look, interesting stuff. We will see how that goes later today then, and we'll report on it tomorrow. As you said, like this is one that has a bit of energy behind it. And in this particular market where things are more challenging,
Do you think they're careening for the same outcome that Ethereum has? Right, like we're talking like, oh, Guns is so great for AVAX. Oh, it's building some. Oh, it's its own L1. Oh, it's its own token. Oh, it's its own thing in its own little pocket. Like, I think there's gonna be some frustration on the horizon.
Too much excitement, if you ask me. Like, it's a great game, right? They raised 100 mil in 6 rounds, but like 16 billion staked, and I mean, it's one of the like first playable, arguably AAA games that's coming out of that. But it's not like if you just compare it to a traditional game, it's not a multi-billion dollar token. It shouldn't be. I get it. They're building the ecosystem, they're building N1. They're not the only ones to do that. I'm not trying to talk that down by any means. But in this market, seeing so much excitement, I don't know how well this will do in a couple of months, to be honest.
I guess, yeah. Okay, so look, on the one hand, there's the gaming aspect, but then on the other hand, it's like it is a L1 token, which I think probably adds a bit of premium to the price immediately. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We will report on it as usual tomorrow. We hope you enjoyed the show today. We do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X Video, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Thank you to Legendary and Bread for co-hosting with me. Thank you to Funky and Oxy for their contributions as always. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for commenting like crazy, dancing on ETH's grave in the YouTube comments. It might not always be delightful, but it's at least I get some enjoyment from the pain there. Thanks so much for being with us as always. We'll be back again tomorrow. Take care and goodbye.